Thanks to German Knife Shop for sponsoring Everyday Tactical Vids. German-knife-shop.com. Hey, what's up everyone? Tim here from Everyday Tactical Vids. Today we're talking about this, which is the Puma outdoor knife. And I got this from German-knife-shop.com. And yeah, I was browsing around their website, checking out different knives, and this one jumped out to me. I'm not super familiar with Puma, so I wanted to check this out and put it through the paces. So we've got a pretty compact blade, Micarta handle, comfortable in hand. Again, I have large size hands. Nice leather sheath. Let me put it in the sheath here and just show you that. No bells and whistles on the sheath as far as like something to hold a fire steel or extra pockets. Right, there's your look at your sheath too, but nicely put together. Let me give you some of the details on the knife here, and then we're going to start putting this thing through the paces and see what we think about it. Your blade length for this knife is 5.27 inches. Your end-to-end length is 9.64 inches. Your steel is 1.4125. And in my research, that's a stainless steel. We'll put this one through the paces and see what we think about it. Just to show you the swedge up top here. So you see the swedge there. And got this lanyard system where you can run a lanyard through that hole and then through this hole. So basically, you know, it's running around your fingers like that. Let me put it back in the sheath and just show you what that looks like up close here. So again, look at your sheath with that Puma logo there. So yeah, there's a quick look at the knife. Now let's put it through the paces and see what we think about this thing. So I've done a little bit more feather sticking off camera. Here's what that looks like. So definitely confirm that it can get some of those fine curls and do the detail work for you. Okay, so we started off there with a little detail work, and yeah, I mean, it does the job. It's any good sharp knife, especially an outdoor knife, should be able to feather stick quite easily, and that guy did it. I can tell you that the handle, it's kind of interesting because it fits my hand nicely. And I've got large size hands. If you have medium size hands, I think this is probably going to be a pretty ideally sized knife for you. I wouldn't say it's small for me, like that little hook at the end is not cutting back into my hand. But it doesn't give me the option to choke way back, say like this. If I choke back like this to chop, that thing's going to definitely dig into my hand, or even two fingers, maybe a little bit. So I would say, yeah, for a person with medium sized hands, my initial thought is this handle will probably be good for you. So like I said, I don't expect this thing to be a chopper, but just to show you can do a little bit of chopping, or we'll try it out here. I mean, if you had to process some branches or something like this, you could definitely do it. This is probably, I don't know, 4/5 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch across here. Yeah, so it's gonna be able to do some of that chopping a little bit. So like I said, the little hook, as I expected, when you go to a 3-finger grip, like so, that's gonna be kind of popping back into your hand. So, you know, as I first looked at this knife, when I first saw it even on their website, I never thought survival knife, chopping tool. I thought camping knife, hunting knife, outdoor knife in general. If you're gonna be doing a decent amount of chopping, you're gonna wanna get something bigger. That's just got a little bit more heft to it anyhow. But as far as some of that little detail work, I like the feel of it in hand, especially when I hold it like this, with my thumb up there on the top. There's no jimping up on the top, but when I hold it like that, it just feels like, yeah, it does a good job with some of those basic cuts. So I just did a little notch here on a piece of wood. And the more I'm using this knife, just messing around with it, the more I'm going to say like general outdoor knife. You know what it reminds me of? Is like a different version. I mean, obviously the style is different, but similar as far as the function to, like, I think it's the Kaiser Little River Bowie, or Bowie, depending on how you pronounce it. But that type of knife, like, I'm not going to be chopping with this. I'm not going to be using it to baton, but you could baton small things with it. You could chop a little bit with it, but around camp, just little tasks. Woodworking, some food prep, things like that. Yeah, it seems to be doing all those things quite well. So yeah, I actually notched another piece of wood right there, but as I was going for this second notch, I snapped off the first one. So it's able to do that well. I can also tell you that I was putting the knife in like this and then popping to get the a little bit of a steeper angle there, and no issues with the blade. To show you real quick, no dings or divots or anything. It's a little bit dirty now, but sometimes if you have bad steel, you know, when you do those types of popping out cuts when you're carving wood, you can mess up a blade. But this seems to be holding up well, even to that type of use. A little bit more carving right there. So tent stakes, trap triggers, things like that. Definitely does the job, as you can see. There's a little bit of a steeper angle if you had to, like I just mentioned, set up a trigger for a trap or something like that. So was able to do that quite easily. Alright guys, let's wrap up here talking about this knife that I got from German Knife Shop. First off, price point is $95, so that's the price you'll pay for it over at their website. Links are down below in the description section if you want to see this knife or other knives and check out what they have to offer. So I just want to reaffirm a bunch of things I said. First off, I wouldn't call this a survival knife. I'd call it a hunting, camping, outdoors knife, but not big enough for me when it comes to being a survival knife. Second thing is about the size of the handle. Again, I have large size hands and it fits me fine, but I would say if you had medium sized hands, that'd be even better for you. This would be pretty ideal as far as the size of the knife. So I did have an issue with the sheath. The button popped off, but they sent me a replacement, so that was all taken care of, but I did want to let you guys know about that. So the price point for this, $95 bucks. You can pick up a variety of other knives for a little bit more, a little bit less. One of the things, if you're an American viewer, is to remember that, you know, to get certain American knives overseas costs a ton of money, and some of them you can't even get overseas. So, you know, depending on where you live in the world, and particularly if you're Europe versus the United States, you're gonna have access to different knives. This one reminds me a little bit, if you've seen Survival Lily's, I think it's called the APO1. Has a little bit of some of that flair. There are definitely some differences, but I think there's some similarities as well. For me, I found the most comfortable grip to be like this. I can use it like this, but I find it's more comfortable having my thumb up there to do those push cuts. So just a heads up on my experience with the knife. So I've seen Puma Tech, you know, the sub brands of that company for a while, but I've never actually tested one of their knives. So this is the first one I've actually had my hands on and used. I think one thing people can underestimate sometimes when it comes to a knife is just the aesthetic appeal. Like, do you like the way a knife looks? Because a lot of knives, you know, if you get a base level at, you know, a cheap versus medium versus expensive versus very expensive level, there's a lot of knives in those different categories, and within that, you know, your various price points, you're going to say, I like that one because it's in the right price range, it does a good job, and I just really like the way it looks. And I think this is a handsome knife. I think it's actually a good looking knife, so for some people that's going to be something that makes them decide, yes, I want it. So let me ask you a couple questions. If you own this knife, let me hear your thoughts. Secondly, I want to hear about value versus cost, particularly if you live in Europe. That's something that's interesting to me because I'm working with German Knife Shop. They're based overseas from me in Germany, obviously. So, you know, we've got different items, different companies they work with, and then just because they're in a different continent, their experience of, you know, what people are looking for, how they're shopping, how they're selecting knives may be different than how we do it back in the States. There's certainly overlap, but there may be some differences as well. So I'd love to hear, if you're living in Europe, how are you thinking about knife selection, and how does this one fit into your world? I look forward to hearing your comments in the comment section. In the meantime, I want to remind you, thanks as always for checking out the videos here on YouTube. Please subscribe. Click that little red subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, check us out on Instagram, Tumblr, and Vero as well. More videos coming soon. Take care.